try, but we've been doing it for many lifetimes to be here together, and we come together again. And even now, when I meet new people coming to Ananda, they're so familiar. Like we've been doing this again for so many lifetimes together, and it's a joy to be here with all of you. It's been over a year, I think, since I've been in Mumbai, and we get to celebrate this big weekend with Masters Mahasamadhi together, and a talk tomorrow. And then hopefully there will be more of our Guru Bhais and friends from past lifetimes being brought here. So let's begin with a prayer, and just a reminder to turn off your mobile phones on silent or earthly. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Teshwarji, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, beloved friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda Ji, Saints of all religions, we humbly bow at thy feet. Beloved Master, we offer our gratitude, that you come to help us, to find the way to freedom, through your grace, your help, through all the friends that you have sent us, that we can help each other go home, into thy light, into thy freedom. We are your very own. Free us. Bring us home. Om Shanti. How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desires. How shall I seek thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I seek thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desires. How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desires. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desires. How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I worship thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. How shall I love thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. How shall I keep thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I seek thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I serve thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. How shall I worship thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I worship thee, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desire. How shall I love you, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I love you, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe? How shall I love you, Lord my God, with every breath I breathe?
Take this chant into meditation. It's a very inward chant. Words are very simple. Reveal thyself, and in Hindi, Ma Darshan De.
Reveal thyself, 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 reveal thyself. Reveal thyself, 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 reveal thyself. Reveal thyself, 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 reveal thyself. Mother Shanti, Mother Shanti, Mother Shanti, Mother Shanti. Mother Shanti, 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 Mother Shanti. Mother Shanti, 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 Mother Shanti. Reveal thyself, 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 reveal thyself. Reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself.
We'll meditate for about 10 minutes. Let's sit up straight, spine away from the back of the chair, eyes closed, gaze gently uplifted, heart open, inviting the presence of the Masters. Let's meditate now. still meditating, let's listen to these words from a talk of Swami Kriyananda ji.
Flawless Mirrors, Kamala titled her book of her life with him. A flawless mirror that reflected back to you who you were, what you needed to work on. And if you were sensitive enough, that would change your life. Now, he passed away, what was it, 41 years ago. 41 years ago. That's a long time. And it's enough to sort of relegate somebody to history. But there's something else that's different. When you have risen above body consciousness, then you don't die in the normal sense. You leave your body, but you can come back any time. And so the marvelous thing about it is that we have found his living presence even now. That he has appeared to people in visions, in ways. They receive his guidance. I receive his guidance. Some of you have received it. That we need to understand that he came to bring a living God. He didn't come to bring us some beautiful myth. He didn't come to bring us some lovely philosophy. He came to bring God into our lives. And far more important than his non-personality, I was going to say than his personality, and yet it wasn't really, but so much more than that. Anyway, far more important than his human presence was that divine. And the constant example, guidance, above all inspiration. As it says in the Bible, to all who received him gave he power to become the sons of God. And people, because disciples always tend to do this, they make that master the only one. But they don't come to be the only one. They came to show us how we can be that. As Jesus said, what I have done, you can do too, and greater things. And then the disciples say that it's blasphemy to talk like that. It's blasphemy not to talk like that, because it's belittling the true teaching of the Master, who comes to say you are that. You can become that. It's your duty to become that. Yogananda treated it quite casually. One time, because I had a beard back in days when nobody was wearing beards, he told me to grow a beard. Somebody thought I looked like Christ. And so he wanted me to be in a pageant for the Masonic order, for some pageant of ushering in offices or something. So anyway, there I was supposed to be Christ on Gethsemane, and looking properly woeful and everything, not saying a word. Well, anyway, afterwards Yogananda said that some people said you really looked like Christ, and I said, well, I'd rather be like him than look like him. And the normal badinage that happens between people, but when I said I'd rather be like him than look like him, what would be the normal answer? That, you can't wish for the moon. No, he said, that will come. Perfectly casually. That's what he had come to make us all. He had come to make us one with the Father. That was his mission. And you won't really be a good disciple until you've attained that. I won't be a good disciple until I've attained that. Again, there was no consciousness of self. One of the disciples one time wrote him a note and said that when I look at you, I see the Divine Mother. And the average person would expect that he would say, oh, don't ever say that at all. He just took his cane and tapped him on the knee and he said, they behave accordingly. Because he didn't want people to think that he was just a person. He wanted them to understand that through that window they were looking at something higher that was in themselves. Ultimately, it wasn't as if you were saying, yes, I'm one with you. It wasn't like that. You were saying, I don't exist. He alone exists. You don't exist. He alone exists. He came to tell us all of him, of that infinite one. He came to tell us who we really are and where our home is, not in this hot, dusty marketplace, not in this place of suffering and anguish, and unfulfilled desires and tragedy. He came to say that beyond all that, your reality is joy. You can be in joy because your nature is joy. You can find that love because that's your own nature. That's who you are. If you will only take your attention away from looking outward through that window and looking backward to the source. Turn the flashlights of your attention back inward upon your higher self. The Masters came to show us how we can become that also. To show us that to be a master is not to become great in the eyes of man, not to become important in the eyes of the world, but no longer to think, who am I, what am I, but just to live always in that flow. And so, I'm going to be giving 2 talks this evening, and I wanted this first one to be about him and my experience of living with him, and you can see how impossible it is to talk about that. How I can only scratch the very surface. The very surface. But if I can convey a little bit of that great experience, not to remind you of how great he was, but to make you think, maybe I've missed something in my life. Maybe I've missed a calling that I haven't understood. Maybe I'm not all that bad after all. Even though I've made mistakes in life, maybe that isn't who I am. Maybe this little germ that has always believed that I'm not bad but good, that has always believed that I'm not so petty really, I'm really great, I just haven't found that yet, that believes in its potential, maybe that's my true self. Maybe that's when my soul is telling me the truth. Maybe there's hope for me after all. That's what I really want to talk about. Not him, because he didn't come to talk about himself either. I want to talk about you. And so, after we've taken a break, I'd like to try to talk a little bit. I have to say try. I can't ever succeed. I can try. To talk a little about the impact that he had and is having on a whole age, on a whole civilization. Because when greatness comes, it cannot but touch the lives of all men, all men.
As Swamiji said here in this talk, he didn't come to talk about Master, he talked about us and what it means for us. And then also what Master came was to really change a civilization. And we look around and we wonder, well, when's that going to happen? Because we're not seeing that happen that strongly. It's very interesting. I was read an account of early Christianity. And we think of this, worldwide religion that tried to take over the world, but it has had a good impact on many lives and became one of the world religions. But in the first 50 years or so, there was just a few hundred disciples of Christ. And in the first 100 years, after 100 years, there was just a few thousand. And then over time, it grew more and more. But these were really committed disciples, what we have here, what I see in many of you here, and what I've dedicated my life to, and what Swamiji challenged us to. And not many people are ready for that right now. Because he was asking to give our whole lives. He came to, one, for those who wanted moksha. Not many people want moksha. They still want to play around. in the waves of the world and have fun and enjoy it. And Master said, after many millions of lifetimes, you've done that enough. And a lot of people haven't done it enough. But I think in the next coming years, they're going to see, well, wait a minute, this world is not a very stable place, not a very happy place. Online last night, one of the people asked the question of how do we respond to a world that is so unjust and unfair, and well, it's going to be unjust and unfair, and seemingly more and more so over time. And the way is inside. And Master is challenging people to do that. And there's two ways to do this. One is to really follow him, practice what he gave, and draw on him and realize that this is for each one of us to find the same freedom that he had. But the other one is to help him in what he's doing. And I mean, he could go to the mountaintop himself and broadcast his teachings. He doesn't need us to do it. He's an avatar. But we need to do it. And this is the way that I have seen of really getting in step with him and really getting in tune with his grace is by helping him. There was a disciple of his that told me a story. He was a brother monk of Swamiji's. He came after Master left the body. And he said that he had a vision. It was a true vision. It was a superconscious dream vision that he had. And he was walking up a very steep road on a very hot, dry day with a lot of dust. And it was hard walking. And he was walking up this steep hill. And he saw someone ahead of him. It was a man carrying a very heavy burden on his back. And the man was very weighed down by the burden. And this man, who was a disciple, he went running up to help the man because he just has that desire to help others. And when he reached this man, the man turned around, and it was Master. And he realized that Master needed his help. And why would Master need his help? Well, it was for this man's sake that he needed to put out the energy to walk hand in hand with the Guru. And so for many of us, that's how we're going to find that freedom, is by helping him. I've been doing this almost the exact same thing for almost 50 years now, doing programs and this and that. And I was remembering just now, for some reason, a very early Ananda program. It was my first year at Ananda. I was in the monastery at that time. And there were about a dozen of us monks. We had a really old beat up van with no windows that just looked really decrepit. And we went to help a program with Swamiji in some California city. And we were driving back, it was around midnight, on some back road as we were taking a shortcut to get back to Ananda village. And as we were driving, all of a sudden police sirens came. And there were like multiple police cars came. They stopped us, they surrounded us, they pulled out these huge intense flash torches, shined it on us, pulled out the loudspeakers. Get out of the van right now. Step out of the side door of the van only. And we piled out all the doors. We went out the back door, the driver's door, and we all had long hair and beards, and we're looking not really totally proper. And I kind of came out, and it was like just orienting this bright light. I squinted, and there's all these guys with guns and rifles pointed at us. And apparently someone had shot at a police car that was a van just like ours. And we looked like the perfect suspects. But there was one young boy with us who was the son of an Ananda member. And he kept walking up to these policemen and saying, "Have you read Autobiography of a Yogi?" Autobiography of a Yogi. And he was expecting that they would say yes, because that was the spirit that we had. And I think we all have it. We want the whole world to know about this. Why aren't people reading this book? Why aren't they following Master? And as Swamiji said, it is something that is going to be part of the civilization going forward. And we're just in the very early days of it. But these are long-term trends that it takes. And the first disciples of Christ, the same way. There's very, very few. But they were absolutely committed. Many of them became martyrs. That's how committed they were. And I remember in the early days of Ananda in our monastery, we all wanted to become martyrs and die for God. It was like, okay, I think we had lifetimes like that. It was such a glorious, maybe not on the surface, but afterwards, after you leave the body and go into the astral world, it's like, oh yeah, that was a great lifetime, wasn't it? And it's actually harder to live a life for God where you dedicate your life in a world that's very crazy, that is unjust. People are suffering. We have to deal with it. And I think yogis who come, we meditate, our souls are very receptive and very sensitive. And so it affects us even more. And so we've come to a place where there's a great need. And the Guru wants our help doing it. And it can be in simple ways, just with family and friends. It can be, as I see, I enjoy coming to Mumbai when we have a big event, because I see these book tables with all the volunteers, and it's just such a joy to see people joyously serving the Guru, because that's what I have found in doing it all these years, is that the freedom comes from actively engaging and helping him out. And again, he doesn't need anyone's help, but we need to be giving our energy and our life force to be able to help him in this way. Swami Kriyananda, when he talked about becoming a disciple of Master, he really emphasized serving the Guru. He said that more than long hours of meditation, I've seen that those who serve the Guru, they're the ones who grow the most. And at Ananda Village over the years, we've seen people who do the long hours of meditation, 5 to 8, 12 hours a day. And I can say without exception, those are the ones who have spun out and left, usually in a very negative way, because they weren't finding God or they were unhappy in some way, but also because they were thinking of the self. And I was reading something yesterday. It was from a talk of Swami Kriyananda. And he was talking, they had done the chant, Door of My Heart, open wide, wilt thou come, wilt thou come. And he said in this talk that a pitfall on the spiritual path is that we spend so much time saying, wilt thou come to me? God, come to me, me, that we have an emphasis on me. And he said, better for us to say, I want to come to you. I offer myself to you. There's a story of the great American president, Abraham Lincoln, where during the Civil War, there was a lot of doubt as to, are we doing the right thing? The country's divided. Maybe just let those people have their country and we can have ours. And a lot of people were praying, and a bunch of ministers came to Abraham Lincoln and said, we're all praying that God is on our side, that he chooses us. And he said, no, that's the wrong prayer. Better to pray that we are on God's side and that we are in tune, that we are standing with God, and we have to act in the right way and make the right choices to stand with God. And it's the same way for all of us. People, we go through karma and tests of doubt. And where is the Guru? I've been complaining all these years, wilt thou come, wilt thou come, and he hasn't come. Where is he? And again, turn it around and think in terms of, okay, I need to go be with him. And where is that? It's with the Guru Bhais. It's like this. It's kind of a satsang. It's also with serving him, helping him. Going to where the Guru needs our help and helping him, like tomorrow when we have this event. And if you're not volunteering yet, find a way to help out and volunteer. And so this is kind of the life of Swami Kriyananda. It's the life that he showed for all of us, and in many ways, really, in all the important ways, his greatness was not who he was. And this is the strange thing about spiritually great people, is that we worship them, we honor them, we talk about them, we touch their feet. And the whole point is that the reason that they're great is that there's nobody there. They got out of the way completely and allowed the Guru to flow through them completely. And so it's sort of a paradox that we honor them, but we honor them, there's nobody there really to honor. You feel like, and I feel this about myself when people, try to touch my feet or, thank me for whatever. I feel like a fraud because the only thing good is not me. Everything else that is good is Yogananda. and any goodness that comes through any of us who serve is the Guru's power and the Guru's grace. And so when we can serve and give, meditate in that way, and realize that he came to give us that spiritual greatness, that's when we really get it. And that's why, sometimes it's why tests come, because when we depend too much on our own human efforts, because we all have good karma, and we have karma, in a human way, and in a personality way, to give a good talk, or to start a good business, or to do one of these things. And I think this is part of the way of Maya, is that we have lifetimes of these ups and downs, where we have great success and good karma. We have a few really nice lifetimes, because in the past we've created a lot of good karma. And so we think, oh, this is good, I'm enjoying this world. And I think I got this, I figured it out. And then we use up that good karma, and then we have to suffer a bunch. And then we realize, okay, maybe I need to make some more good karma to have a good lifetime. And we just go up and down for many lifetimes. And Yogananda said, Swamiji said that we can have as many as 40 million human lifetimes before we figure it out. And that's 40 million lifetimes of ups and downs until we finally come to this point, which is why really we're all here today, and why we've all come to Yogananda, is because we really want freedom. We've had enough of the waves. I enjoy going to the ocean and playing with the waves. And what I discovered, and maybe I'll talk about this later tomorrow, is that when you're comfortable with the ocean, you can stand and start wading out. And California has really big waves. That's why people like to go surfing there. And once you're comfortable, you can start going out, and a really big wave comes. And you learn how, just as the wave is about to crash on you, to dive underneath the wave. And in the ocean, you have all these ups and downs of the waves, all the drama of the world. But underneath, it's always the same. It's very, very still. And so when the wave comes, you dive under it where it's very calm and you're not touched by it. And then the wave goes crashing over you, and you pop up on the other side and just enjoy playing with the waves. But if you play a little too much, every once in a while, you wait a little bit too long, and you don't dive in time, and the wave crashes on you. And these waves are very powerful. When it does that, it just smashes you down into the sand, like violently, and then it feels like you're in a washing machine, getting tumbled around, and then you stand up and cough and get ready for the next wave. But you realize that I think people enjoy playing with the waves of duality and the ups and downs. But then after 40 million lifetimes, as Yogananda said, you start to experience the anguishing monotony. It seems exciting at first, but after a while you realize, okay, I've been doing this for 40 million lifetimes, and maybe it's time to start going underneath the ocean and get beyond the waves and to find freedom underneath. And that's what Yogananda came to give us, is that ultimate freedom, not just a good life. Swamiji would get irritated when people would say things like, oh, Yogananda, he found me an apartment, or he found me a parking place. And he wouldn't get upset, but he would just say, he didn't come to make your life easier. He came to give you freedom. I've shared this story before, but people talk about, oh, I was looking for a parking place. And I've been with people who've done it. And it's sweet. I mean, I've done it. We've all done it. So I'm not pointing fingers, except that all of us. Oh, Master gave me a parking place. And I shared it at a satsang one time with Ananda that I had never heard anyone ever say, I was looking for a parking place. I got it. I came back. And Yogananda gave me a parking ticket. Because he gives us everything that comes to us. And a few days later, I had a voicemail message from a dear friend who was at that satsang. I said, Devarshi, I was out yesterday. I came back to my car, and Divine Mother and Master, they gave me a parking ticket. And they were so happy because they saw that everything was coming from the Guru and from God, not just the good things. And when the tests come also,
because we've all had tests in life. This isn't an easy life. And Yogananda said an easy life is not a victorious one. And what he was saying is that when tests come, when we give our lives to God and go to the Guru and say, okay, Master, I want moksha, I want freedom. And if we're serious, and he knows that we're serious about it, and not just kind of talking off the top of our heads and being wishful about it, he rubs his hands together and says, good, now we can really get to work. And before that, he sort of entices us into the room. Oh, there's good stuff in here. There's peace and joy and success and all this. But when the heart's desire and the longing for moksha is there, then he can really work with us. And that's when even the tests are the hand of his own grace come to liberate us. And it doesn't look like it at the time. We think, well, where is Master? I thought he was going to make it easier for me. He seems to be making it harder for me. But this is the way that we find freedom. It's both. It's not one or the other. He gives us some nice touches of grace and light and beautiful satsang, beautiful friendships like we all have here in Mumbai. And then he also comes to challenge us because he sees that, Devarshi needs to get out of himself and not be so self-involved. And he needs to share what he has with other people. And I'm going to kick him out of the nest. And if he doesn't, then I'm going to kick him even harder and make him do it even more. And he does it to all of us in different ways until we respond. And so if we can see sort of the kicks and the indignities of life as the Guru's hand coming to move us along, to push us along, because it is easy to get comfortable in where we're at spiritually. We make progress, we find some peace, and we think, oh, this is pretty nice. I'm kind of enjoying this level that I'm at of peace and joy. And yet our soul remembers that it came for moksha. It didn't just come for a little peace and joy and a nice life. And when we forget, and our soul remembers, the Guru comes and kicks us a little bit again to push us on again. But the Guru also comes as the grace and the strength, the power. And that's just what I want to finish by talking about, is that he came to bring power to change our lives. People see Yogananda, and we've all experienced this. We read autobiography of a yogi. We see this divine sweet nature that he has. And then we listen to a recording of his voice. And all of a sudden his voice is like really powerful, and he's shouting at times. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I was expecting just sweetness and light. I wasn't expecting his power. I saw this with Swami Kriyananda too. There was extraordinary power of Yogananda flowing through him. But that power is what really has the power to change us. That's why when we did our Kriya meditation this morning, I really recommended that we feel Yogananda's power and the power of the universe flowing through our sushumna, through our spines. Because when we start tapping into that power, that's the power to give us what Swamiji was talking about, to give us moksha, to give us freedom. And that's what we came for. That is our ultimate destiny. Whether we forgot it or not, it's what our souls came. And that's why we're all here today. So let's not bring Yogananda down to a small size and just to our own limited perception of who he is. And let's really try to tune into his greatness and really draw on that great power that he came to give us to become free. Vasudeva will share some of this.
Thank you, Devarshi. Good morning, everyone. In fact, these spotlights are a bit too hard on me, so if we can turn the regular lights on. This is good. Now I can see all of you and what's happening behind. Like Swamiji was saying in that talk, it's hard to talk about an avatar, and how do you talk about Master whose consciousness is so vast, infinite, and let's summarize him in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or in 1 hour. It's slightly challenging, very challenging. But I just wanted to, in the beginning, emphasize on something which Devarshi was also emphasizing on. Like Swamiji would often say that when Master was in public, he would give a wide range of talks. He would talk about, how to be a success in this, and how do I have a successful relationship, or be successful in business, or how do we get creative, or how do we use our willpower. Just wide variety of topics. But when he was with his disciples, with the monks, the close ones, the deeper ones, he would just not say too much about other things. He would emphasize and say, get in tune. He would emphasize the attunement part of it. And as Devarshiji was saying that, we just need to get out of our way. And the greatness was of Swami Kriyanandaji was, as he said himself, I mean, he didn't say, this is why I'm great, not that. But he said there was a point in his life where he didn't know where Swami Kriyananda ended and Yogananda began. And why? Because he had basically gotten himself out of the way. And that's big part of all our jobs is to get out of the way. And one of the talks I heard Swamiji say, he said, well, we all are going to learn our lessons, but we can either go with the flow, I'm paraphrasing, but he said we can either go with the flow, or if we don't go with the flow, there's an extra kick behind, and Master makes sure that we go with the flow or we go along because he's deeply interested in our spiritual growth. He's deeply interested in us being one with him. He's, in a way, you could say, not necessarily, but in a way, you could say he's jealous when we, start wandering here and there. We are like, oh, Master, and then suddenly we get distracted. That's a nice car. Or, Master, but the pizza here is good. Maybe I should have the pizza and then meditate. But whatever little things which keeps us distracted. And I just love the chant which Devarshiji was doing, and we've all played this chant or heard this chant. What was the chant? That one, yes, yeah. But also, what is this like? No. What was, how shall I love thee? Just as a fire may burn a whole forest, burn to the roots my desires. So let's try with each our meditation practice, with our kriya, with our attunement, whatever we do, the goal is one and only one. How do we get one with Master? How do we let go of this little Vasudeva and make him the big Vasudeva with the capital V? And you can use it with your own name too. But then on the other side, I was also thinking it's, after all, Master's Mahasamadhi, and how do we approach his life? And I was thinking about it for myself. There were, at least in my mind, two ways to look at his life or to approach his life. One is from a very historical point of view. There was someone who, great soul, born in 1893, left the body in 1952. Great, and it's helpful to a degree to know the facts, like how was he with his disciples, or how did he leave the body. And it's very beautiful how Swami Kriyanandaji has written in the New Path of his last few days and how he was talking to his devotees and he knew what was happening. That's, yes, the historical aspect. In fact, even deeper, if we go into history, we look, like Master said, he was William the Conqueror. Master said he was a king in Spain, which Swamiji said he was Ferdinand III. Master said he was Arjuna. And in fact, Swami Kriyanandaji even asked him, Master, were you Jesus Christ? And Yogananda said, what difference would it make? And then later Swamiji said, I think he was Jesus Christ. So he's been coming again and again and again and again. But why? Was he coming to show off? Look how great I am. Look, I'm Jesus Christ. Or look, I'm Ferdinand. Or look how powerful I am as William the Conqueror. Or was he coming again and again and again to help us? Because I have a feeling we were around him, no matter which incarnation that was. And not necessarily physically all the time. Some incarnations, yes, we are physically around the Guru. And some incarnations, not so much necessarily, but his vibrations are still there, his teaching is still there. Which then brings us to the real point of it, which is the history aside. How is he alive in our life today? Each one of us. We wouldn't be here if, in some interesting fashion, the autobiography had not come in our life. Or if, in some interesting fashion, the class of Learn to Meditate, or Ananda, or Swamiji's music, or Swamiji's book had not come into our life. And that is where his power is still alive, even today, right here and right now. And that is what we need to tune into in a much, much real way. And Yogananda ji said, to those who think me near, I will be near. And I would say, let's experiment it. Let's hold him to his word. Like you said, if I think you near, you will be near. Now, it is true that, Swamiji, once he heard a brother monk of his have this very deep experience when I think this brother monk was doing japa, and Swamiji thought, well, that's for me. So Swamiji started doing the same thing of maybe chanting Om Guru repeatedly, thinking of Master that he'll get an experience. And then Master saw Swami Kriyananda ji, and he looked at him and he said, Walter, are you up to some mischief? And Swamiji thought it was perfectly fine, just like all he was doing was just trying to, feel the presence of the master. But there was an ulterior motive somewhere to have an experience. He said, "No, master." He said, "Are you sure? Are you not up, you're not up to any mischief?" He said, "Yes, yes, yes, master." He said, "All right then." But then later, of course, Swamiji realized that not to seek it for the sake of experience. So similarly, yes, do challenge what Master said. To those who think me near, I will be near. So challenge it, but not for the sake of challenging it. But no, Master, from your heart, I want to feel your presence. I want you to be in my meditation. And it's a bit too hard already to do things myself. And I found this thing true for my own self also, that whenever I think I can do something really well, like I'm really proficient at doing it, Master finds a way to really blow it up on my face. Like, I know this, just keep it aside. And then, oh no, I don't know this. Master, can you please help me? So why not in the very beginning itself start, you know, let's start with ground zero. I don't know anything. Anything I know is really, Master, what comes from you and through you. And then things begin to change. Now, yes, we Swamiji was talking about the highest, and Devarshi was also speaking about moksha. And sometimes, or oftentimes, when challenges come, forget about moksha. If I can even wake up the next day happy enough, I'll be fine. Moksha is way, way too high. But I think we shouldn't forget the goal, regardless of the day-to-day challenges, and that is where sometimes the dry middle ground, as we were talking about yesterday, comes. The challenges come, and this very talk which we were listening to, I forget how long it is. It's a nice long talk. I would encourage all of you to listen to it. But in the very beginning, Swamiji shares this story which he heard from Master, and maybe this might help us when we face challenges of even thinking about our very next step. And Swamiji shares a story that Master, when he was young Mukunda, he had a dream. And in this dream, Mukunda was in a busy marketplace in one of the Himalayan towns. And in this busy marketplace, Mukunda is standing, and every once in a while, he would see a man walking towards him, and he would just look behind Mukunda, a little high above him, and this man's face, or whichever, and like every few minutes, a man would just stop and look, pause, and this pause, their eyes would be filled with peace and joy. Like, how beautiful it is. And right after that, the people would say, "Oh, but it's too high for me." And it just happened again and again and again. And Mukunda thinks, like, what's happening? Why is everybody pausing, looking at something, being elated, being joyful, being peaceful, and then saying, "Oh, but it's too high for me." And then they walk away and don't do anything about it. So Mukunda was curious. He turns around, and what does he see? He sees this beautiful mountain top, just anything one could expect of. Lush green gardens, trees, beautiful weather, just anything we think would be the most ideal environment to be in. He sees that, and he says, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." And then he says, "Oh, but it's too high. How am I going to get there? It's way, way too high." And right at that moment, Mukunda thinks, yes, it is very high, and yes, moksha is very high, but I can put one step in front of the other. And by putting one step in front of the other, we will get there to the mountain top. And that one step in front of the other is our morning and evening sadhana sometimes. It seems challenging. It is our techniques, it is our attunement to Guru, it is our mental japa, everything and anything that Master gave us. Just putting one step in front of the other. And then one day we will find, and again, just to emphasize and repeat, they didn't come to show how great they were. Because, and in fact, Master, he could have done these things without any effort whatsoever. I was just thinking about how Master got Mount Washington. He had money problems, as many of you might know, to get and even when he was in America, he was there during Great Depression. And when I thought, well, Master had money problems, he was an avatar, and he was in the same line as Babaji. He could have materialized a golden palace. For all we know about it, he didn't have money problems. He came us to show how we, when we have challenges, how do we overcome those challenges? How do we take one step in front of the other? So that is now inspiring because they could have very easily shoo like, okay, that's not really a big problem. Once you're out of delusion, it's not a delusion anymore. No, he came to be with us, and he's still with us as long as we think him near. It also happens to be Sri Yukteswar's Mahasamadhi a couple of days later. And I was just thinking, Sri Yukteswarji is always someone who gets slightly ignored because sometimes we find he's a little hard to relate to, and which is to some degree true, but to some degree not true as well. And in fact, of all places, we are here in Mumbai, where we know of the chapter of resurrection of Sri Yukteswar. From the chapter resurrection of Sri Yukteswar, we know this is where he came to Master. He resurrected in front of Master. But I just wanted to relate to what we have been speaking so far with what Sri Yukteswarji said as well. Because very often in our spiritual path, in our journey, we hold ourselves a bit too tight. Oh, I missed doing this, or I'm not right, and there's a lot of guilt which gets carried. And just these words of Sri Yukteswar I've been lately, at least in the last few weeks, been repeating to myself. Uh, Forget the past. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Everything in the future will improve if you make the right spiritual effort now. He even says human conduct is ever unreliable until anchored in the divine. And there's there are a few ways to interpret what Master writes, and one way to interpret is human conduct is ever unreliable. Of course, this person is completely unreliable, and that person is completely unreliable. But the other way to look at it is, am I reliable to my own self? I say something and I do something else. But as long as I hold on to Master, as long as I hold on to this great line of gurus, then by just putting one step in front of the other, I will reach to that mountain top, which Master not only came to show us, but he came to give us the roadmap to how do we get there. So, with that, why don't we, for this year, and especially it being the 100th year anniversary of Swami Kriyanandaji's birth anniversary, let's really make a conscious effort to tune into Master, to attune ourselves to Master, just like Swamiji did. And I wanted to read a reading from this. I can do only a short part, but I would encourage all of you to read the whole chapter from the book Paramhans Yogananda, a biography. In that, there's a chapter which Swamiji writes Yogananda's salient characteristics. It's a really fun chapter. And of course, we don't want to relate to Yogananda just as a personality, but even on that level, sometimes trying to tune into the master helps us. And I found myself so many times amazed. Because I hadn't heard or listened to enough talks and writings of Master. I actually listened to first Swamiji, and then I started tuning into Master more. And I would find, oh my God, Swamiji is sharing these things exactly as Master shared them. And then these days, I'm more amazed. I would see, Devarshi is doing this exactly as Swamiji would do, or Dhyanaji is doing this exactly as Swamiji would do, or basically, the more, even somewhat on a human level, if we can try to attune ourselves to Master and our great lineage, we find slowly and gradually moving towards that mountaintop. So I'll just end with one of these readings. There are many, I forget, I think there are 30 plus salient characteristics which 32, thank you. Which Master Swamiji writes about, one for each month and then a bonus as well. So, okay, we can close our eyes and we can tune into this reading. Swamiji writes, he, meaning Yogananda, understood others from within themselves and not as other people do from the outside. There was a young disciple, Abby George, whose talk was rather salty and who didn't show the usual respect for his guru. In fact, he was inwardly extremely respectful, but such had been his upbringing. He would actually sit in a chair with one leg over the armrest as he talked with the master. But master saw behind that facade, after some particularly unusual display of what in other disciples would have been blatant disrespect, master embraced him with a loving laugh. And as we see over here, whatever we may be on the outside, Master can see us who we truly are. He feels our love, he feels our devotion, regardless of what outward form and passion we may have. So, anyways, without further ado, I think we'll move forward. But again, I would really encourage you to read this chapter from the book Paramahansa Yogananda biography. We'll now have an arti and a blessing.
There's a little booklet that's a gift. Will people be handing them? Will people be handed these, or will they?
Or they can just take it.
Okay. It's a little booklet we printed and shared for the Pre-Upon Retreat in Bangalore. Seed Thoughts for Meditation. These are small passages from Swamiji. Kind of like, I'll read the introduction because it's very short. These short seed thoughts are tools to guide your meditation. Too often our sadhana gets into a rut, losing its newness and inspiration. When we approach meditation with a singular focus, it can give much greater clarity. It also awakens new understanding and helps form new habits. Read one of these quotes as you begin your meditation. See how your sadhana changes. And one example for long meditations, Swamiji shared this at the 8-hour meditation one year. God's body is space. If you want to feel Him, you must feel space in the body and all space around it. The first experience of God is deep inner peace. That sense of space is what gives the consciousness of peace. So feel free to pick one of these up if you're going to the altar.